Hi, I'm Liz Sneddon. We're looking at the School Exam 2019 and it's the Level 2 Probability Exam. So let's have a look at question 1D. Here we've got some question about the weights of bread, and he's only going to complain if it's in the bottom 2% of weights. And we want to find the maximum weight that he will complain about. Okay, so my first step is draw my diagram. Got my normal distribution, got my mean of 33 and a standard deviation of 4. Now we're talking about, and the question talks about the bottom 2% of weights. So the bottom 2%, so that's talking about this area down the bottom here, the tail. So we're talking about that tail being 2%. Okay, now remember 2% as a decimal is 0.02. Okay, remember 2 over 100 will give you 0.02. Okay, so I want to find the weight, the maximum weight, so the largest weight it would be, and there's 2% of bread below that point. So there are two ways that we can do this question. One way is on the graphics calculator, and the other is using the table method. So let's start by having a look at the graphics calculator. So one of the things that we just need to think about is that when we do this area here, this tail that we've shaded in, this tail is on the left hand side. The area that we want to use is the tail area, which in this case is 0.02. So we put that information plus our mean and standard deviation in to the graphics calculator and we'll get our answer. So let's go into our stats mode, and then again we want our distributions, so F5, and our normal distribution F1, but this time we want to have our inverse normal because we've been given the probability and we're trying to find the weight, which is the x value. So I want the inverse, which is F3. So I need to look at my diagram, and the normal distribution that we've coloured in, it's the 2% that we talk about is the 2% on the left hand side. So that's already my default, but if I needed to change it to right or centre, I'd press F2 or F3. So the area is a probability. So 2%, turn that into a decimal, so divide by 100, and that will give me 0.02. I've got a standard deviation of 4 and a mean of 33. And now when I do the inverse normal, that tells me the weight, that 2% lie below, the bottom 2%, is from 24.79 grams or more. So there's our answer. Let's have a look if we were doing this using the table method now. So remember, we're talking about this tail here being 2%, okay, with a mean of 33 and a standard deviation of 4. And we're trying to find that value there of x. Okay, so I do know that all of these values in here, all of those values, those are the probabilities. Okay, the values around the outside are the z values. So I've been given a probability. Okay, I've been given a probability of 2%. So that's, remember, 0.02. So I need to look at the diagram and look at my diagram and match them up. And I can see here, this area there represents an area equivalent here. Okay, now that, because it's symmetric, the distribution there, this side will also be the same probability, but I need to manipulate this because I need to, that's what I'm going to use, but I've been given the tail. So if the tail is 2%, then that means that this area here must be 48%, okay, which as a decimal is 0.48, okay, because 2% plus 48% gives us our 50%, so half of the data below the mean. Okay, So what I want to do is I want to look in these probability values, I want to look for that value of 0.48. That's what I want to find. Okay, so what I do is I come down here and I start looking down 0.47. Oh, and I notice that this is where it's changing from 0.47 to 0.48. So let me just have a look along this row with the 0.47s. And I notice that it starts to change there. Okay, you'll notice that we go from here, from 0.4798 to 0.4803. So I'm going to choose the value just below the 0.48 that I want. So what I've got is I've got a value of 0.4798. So that's my probability value so far. That's close to the 48% that I want. And the Z value that that goes with, so if I look along that row, that goes to 2.0, and the second decimal place when we go up is 5. So that's 2.05. Now remember, the value of x that we want is below the mean, so this is going to be a negative Z value. Now go back to that probability 0.4798. I need to add another 2, and if I add that 2, then that will become 0.48, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to continue looking along that row until I find the 2's. And the first 2 that I come across, that's the 2 that I want to add. That means if I go up, the third decimal place is a 4. So there's the third decimal place on Z value, negative 2.054. Now that I have that, I've got the Z value, now I can use my formula. I know Z, I know the mean, I know the standard deviation, so now I'm going to solve to find x. Okay, so let me just write this one in. So Z equals negative 2.054. I've got a mean of 33, and I've got a standard deviation of 4. So here's our formula. Z equals x minus the mean over the standard deviation. So Z is negative 2.054. X, well, that's what we're trying to find out. The mean is 33, and our standard deviation is 4. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move that 4 to the other side, and the opposite of dividing by 4 is multiplying by 4. So I'm going to say negative 2.054 times 4 equals x take away 33. So we get negative 8.216 equals x minus 33. And now I'm going to take the minus 33 to the other side, and the opposite of subtracting 33 is adding 33. So that's what I'm going to do, move that across, and I get minus 8.216 plus 33 equals x. So that leads to my answer of x equals 24.8 grams. Okay, so if we are able to find the Z value, if I can get that Z value, that would give me a U. If I can get to this answer here of 24.8 grams with the working, then that will give me my value of R, which is my merit.